Welcome into this segment of Behind the Pen presented by MostValuablePodcast.com. If you want to listen to the full podcast, go to blogtalkradio.com/MostValuablePodcast. Also, we're on iTunes, so check us out there as well. Thank you all for listening as always, and enjoy the show. We are moving right along, Ricky Widmer. I said that right this time. Ricky Widmer. We're talking MLB conversation. It is February 23rd, and I'm looking forward to the spring training game. I don't know, the exhibition starting.
We're talking baseball.
It's really, we're talking about, well, last podcast I said how the artificial day of pitchers and catchers reporting is like the most celebrated non-day ever, which, hey, gloves are popping, bats are cracking. And I'll tell you what, in the AL West this year, it's going to be a pretty competitive matchup. By the way, we're on video on YouTube. What's up, guys? If you could drop a like and a comment down below, it really helps out our channel. blogtalkradio.com/MostValuablePodcast still there. This will probably be the final segment unless we go off on a random-ass tangent. But right now in front of us, we have the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros specifically. Now, I just want to mention I spoke on the Seattle Mariners earlier on a Behind the Pen podcast that is posted. You can check it out on YouTube as well as Blog Talk Radio. For today, I wanted to focus on these two teams in particular because they've had really interesting off seasons. And I just want to ask you, Ricky, are these two teams right now a lock for the playoffs going into this year?
See, I think it's interesting. Like the AL West to me is the most interesting division in the entire American League, maybe even the entire MLB, because to me coming into this season, it's going to be interesting. In the AL East, I've kind of got my eyes on Boston and Toronto at the top. In the Central,
Have to include Baltimore.
It's really going to, well, Baltimore's going to be interesting to me because of, Wieters is going to be gone. Matt Wieters is gone. I think they might be the third team, but they might be in it as well. In the Central, it's really the Indians, the Tigers, and then let's see what the Royals are going to do with their new Cub lineup that they got from us. And then it really comes down to the West. And right now, if I had to look at it, I got one team from the Central. The Sox are going to win the East. Toronto gets a wild card, and then take your pick between the Orioles, Tigers, and Royals.
I think this American League situation is going to be very competitive this year for sure, but I want to look at these two in particular in the West because I think they're so evenly matched now, and I think their off seasons.
I think they're going to beat each other up, and one's not going to make the wild card, and one's going to make the playoffs.
Well, their off seasons are very intriguing to me, as well as really what the Rangers did in last year's deadline to make them relevant still. Now, their outfield, there's some question there in Texas. Their rotation I like. They won the Tyson Ross sweepstakes, who I believe, if healthy, can be a game changer in that rotation. You already have Hamels, Darvish. Martin Perez proved himself last year as a legitimate starter. So I think this Texas team is intriguing. They signed Mike Napoli to replace Mitch Moreland, who Rangers fans, I didn't really like Mitch Moreland to begin with. He goes over to Boston, if I'm not mistaken. But you have young players like Ryan Rua, who's going to step up, who had a really impressive year last season. And then Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo is a guy who you just don't know. You don't know. He came up as a young big league hitter and struggled mightily. Had multiple trips up and down, AAA and the big leagues. Struggled. Kind of reminded me of Anthony Rizzo when he first came into the league. But if you get any production from Gallo, not sure if he's going to make the 25-man roster, not really looking that far into it yet, as spring training really just went underway. This Texas team is intriguing, but by no means do I believe they're the front runner in the West, because if I were to guess right now, I'd probably have to give the edge to Houston. Am I wrong?
Well, and for me, it was one where last year I really liked Houston. When I had my World Series pick, I said it was going to be the Cubs over the Astros I said 4 games because, let's be honest, I was kind of throwing some fun at Sox fans. They swept the Astros for theirs. I thought we would sweep the Astros for ours. And it was kind of like holy shit, where'd the Astros go? Because the year before, they get to the wild card. They beat the Yankees 3-0 in the wild card game. They're in the playoffs. And then last year, it was like I said, where are the Astros? I think this is going to be a year where the Astros go, you know what? We really fell back last year. We're going to come back. Last year was our year. We felt it was our year, and we missed that opportunity because you look at it, they got McCann behind the plate, Altuve and Correa cheering up the middle of that field.
Well, straight up the middle, period.
They got Springer in center, who I was going to mention. And I mean, this is a team that I felt had the pitching, had the prospects in the field. Well, the players in the field, I should say. They're not really prospects at this point.
Legitimized himself as a star.
It's one of these teams where I feel like the Astros are going to be the best comeback team of 2017.
Oh, by far. I think this team is going to win over 85 games, and I think that may not be so much of a stretch given the competitive nature of the American League, that teams beat up each other in the American League. It's not like the National League when you have really bad teams like bottom feeders, especially last year. Last year was really
Reds.
The worst. Like with Milwaukee, even Philadelphia could be a part of that conversation. Atlanta was just putrid. San Diego.
Forgot to mention Cincinnati.
Oh, I hate the Reds. I don't even want to mention the Reds. They're terrible, straight up. Everything about them are just bad. F Cincinnati. The Reds. Maybe the city too. No, I'm just.
But we love you if you're a fan of them.
If you're a Reds fan, well, I probably just made you click away. That's fine. I don't really care. Who needs you, Reds? I'm just kidding. I'm digging myself in the hole. I should shut up. But we're looking specifically at the Astros today. We're talking about the Astros. Keuchel, McHugh, McCullers. That is solid. Got to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at to me, I feel like the most important thing for both of these teams is going to be the back end of their rotation. And I look at it, and I feel like the back end of the rotation, because right now McCullers, right now on ESPN, they have him listed as the fourth starter behind Fears, McHugh, and
Mike Fiers.
And Keuchel is who I was stretching on. And I just look at the fourth guy for the Rangers, a guy that we both know that I know you have a strong opinion on, Andrew Cashner.
He's not going to be there. Let's be honest.
He'll start.
He
there
might
at
transition
best.
to the bullpen, but they have so many other options there because, let's be honest, Andrew Cashner's just not that good as a starter. He throws hard.
No, he's not. Like I said, we know that firsthand because he used to be.
Well, I mean, even
on
after
our team.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the Cubs, he was explosive as out of the bullpen because he was hitting 99 consistently, but turning into a starter, pitching in San Diego, just meh, very meh. And for him to be a part of this rotation in Texas, I don't think it's going to last. That's my opinion. They have way too many options there. But you talk about the back end of the bullpen. I said bullpen.
Rotation.
I meant rotation, but I'm looking at the bullpen. I think if you look at the two bullpen, they lost Texas lost their closer to Tampa Bay, and Ken Giles and Luke Gregerson over on Houston. I think you can win with that. They could really switch. Flip-flop from closer to setup man. With those two, you have a nice lefty guy with Tony Sipp. I don't know. I'm looking at this Houston team. I'm leaning towards Houston. They made a nice offseason signing to bring in Carlos Beltran. That was, I think, one of the smarter things that they could have done. Bringing in trading for J.J. Redick early on, as well as making a move for McCann. I think they went after guys that accounted for holes in last year. Lost Jason Castro, meh. You can get over that. But this rotation, when healthy, can carry you. Correa, like we mentioned, star. Up the middle, they are so solid. We didn't even mention Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman's going to come on the scene similar to a guy like Trevor Story last year, who is that damn good. And I'll say that right now. So I'm kind of leaning Astros right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Astros too, and mainly because of the Rangers. I feel like, and this is just me just looking at the last 2 years, I really think sooner rather than later, we're going to look at the Rangers and go, you missed your chance. You couldn't get past the Blue Jays.
With Washington, Ron Washington, when he went to back-to-back World Series and lost.
You couldn't get... Well, I'm just looking at the last 2 years.
That was a while ago.
The last 2 years, you couldn't get past the Blue Jays.
Sure.
That's what it's been. You could not get past the Toronto Blue Jays.
And that's why they went up and got a guy in Cole Hamels, and you'll see what they're going to get from Tyson Ross, who's going to be really, like I said, a game changer in that starting five.
You know what wouldn't surprise me this year? And this is a weird situation, but I'm going to throw it out there. I would not be surprised if, let's say, I'm going to throw out the Indians and the Red Sox win their division, so they get automatic bids into the playoffs. And then I wouldn't be surprised if we have like the Orioles and Blue Jays or the Tigers and Blue Jays secure the wild card, but then we have a one-game playoff for the AL West between the Astros and the Rangers.
You think it's going to be that close?
Could be. I think these two teams, like I said, I think they're going to fight it out for their division, but I don't. I think it's going to be one of these teams gets in, the other doesn't, because the other wild card teams are going to be better.
Well, you talk about how much they have to play each other within a division. That could come down to it, and we're not even mentioning the Seattle Mariners. They're going to be a part of this conversation as well. Like I mentioned, check out my opinion on them in a previous Behind the Pen podcast as well. I wanted to mention the over-under video that I did last week separated the top 3 teams in the West by 1 game. So that's how close it's going to be in the West, and that's why I really wanted to talk about this.
And even though we haven't mentioned the Mariners, I know we're not getting too into it because you did spend a lot of time talking about them, we can't call them out of it. Like, it could be a 3-team race for that AL West.
I like the Mariners. I like what the
It could be
did.
a 3-team race with 2 teams not making the playoffs and 1 making it.
And that's what that's great. And if you're a baseball fan, if maybe you're a team like, the top 3. Because look at it. When you go back to the 2015 season, I don't mean to bring the Cubs into this conversation, but that AL Central was so competitive, it came down to Cardinals winning over 100 games that year, but then the Pirates winning 1 more game than the Cubs did in 98. The Cubs won 97.
It's okay. Jake Arrieta had a diamond of a game in that wild card.
Of course, and Schwarber. I had to mention that. Hey, no, I'm serious. Like that, if you're a team,
Schwarber or Schwardaddy, I believe is his name now.
Bow down. I call him Babe Ruth. But when you look at that situation for playing into a wild card game, you want to avoid it at all costs because it's a winner go home. 162 games decided by 1 to move on into the playoffs to a 5-game playoff series. It's too much pressure, man. Can't do it.
Well, and last year I was kind of hoping for. I'm trying to look at the standings. I thought we'd have a situation like it. I think it was in. Oh, this was in the NL, not the AL, where I was really hoping we were going to get the situation.
Oh, it almost did.
I thought we were going to have the situation of like Cardinals and Mets have to play or Cardinals Giants have to play just to play the Mets in the wild card.
Or
game.
just to determine 1 or 2 in the wild card, and then there was like a bunch of tiebreakers and whatnot.
Like I would have loved to see that. Let's have a playoff game.
As long as it's not my team.
A 1-game playoff, to a 1-game playoff, and then you get into the playoffs.
Speaking of last year, really Texas ran away with it as I look at the standings. And winning 95 games, Seattle 86, Houston 84.
I don't know if Texas wins 95 again this year.
No.
Because I'm just looking at it with the Houston to Ranger games alone. I think that becomes a little bit closer of a schedule. And the first time they will meet is May 1st through May 4th in Houston for a 4-game.
I mean, we baseball season is so much different than any other team.
Do you know who the Rangers open up the season against at home for a 3-game series? No, the AL Central champs.
Oh, Cleveland.
The Cleveland Indians.
Well, that'll be fun. I mean, you can't go into regular season games in the Major League season until they're at. It's a different ball game, totally different ball game, because they play every day. 162 games is unreal. But when you look at the overarching conversation, this is February 23rd. This Texans team could everybody can make moves by the deadline and totally change the pathway of their future. But going back to what I was mentioning at the start of this podcast, or this segment, Jonathan Lucroy, that acquisition last deadline was huge, along with Cole Hamels. That sets them up to be competitive again this season. Now, the concern, they're taking another chance with Carlos Gomez. I'm not sure how committed they will be to him in center, if at all, because what a disaster he was. But overall, this Rangers team, like I'm leaning towards Houston, but it's a slight lean because this Astros team, I really like their third to second, Mike Napoli. Party at Napoli's. He was, he's one of those types of hitters, home run guys like Chris Carter, something like that, a little better than him in particular, but nothing special. I'm really looking at Ryan Rua if he can come up and, make a name for himself. Shin-Soo Choo, still a part of the conversation. So they got pieces. No, let's not say that. So Beltre though, Beltre's still a star.
And last year, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of how these two teams played against each other. Last year, they played a total of 19 times, the Rangers and the Astros. The first 8 games went to the Rangers. The Rangers actually, 10 games in the first half, they went 9-1 against the Astros.
Houston was dealing with a lot.
And I know Astro fans are like, but Ricky, we know. And then if you look at the second half, Series 1, they go 2-1. Then the next one, they go 2-1. That's 4-2. And then 2-1 again. So they went 6-3 and 9-1. That was only 4 losses to 15 wins.
So
15
February
and 4.
23rd, as we record this podcast, really, I'm so excited.
I think that number, like 15 and 4, if they play 19 again, because I don't think the schedule changes that much from year to year, I would say more, 15-4. I'm going to go more towards 8-8. I think that's what it's going to be. That's right down the middle.
I think these both teams are evenly matched. We're going to keep an eye on that as
of course, injuries change everything.
Days progress. Of course. I mean, this is only February. Spring training games just getting underway, which is nice to see.
But wouldn't it be hilarious? And I know Venji, one of our huge Toronto supporters, would love it if Texas made the playoffs and lost to the Blue Jays again.
We have to wait and find out. And with that, bringing that up, you ruined the game. I watched it. Sandy Koufax. I saw him pitch. He's really good. And Ricky.
That's what they sound like.
Ricky, you know what you did? If you saw a guy bat flip all over the place, he would get one right in the ear hole. I'll tell you that. And that's what they sound like.
It's
baseball.
Oh, man.
It's baseball changing, and I love it because I'm interested. Guys are doing stuff that keeps the game fresh.
Hashtag make baseball fun again.
And more power to you, Bryce Harper, and guys like Correa and Corey Seager and Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, all of these young players, Nolan Arenado, they're so good. So many good players.
You know what? I've said this to you guys, and I'm going to say it to our fans. One day I would like to find a girl that looks at me like Anthony Rizzo looks at Chris Bryant. That's my goal.
I walked up and downhill both ways to get to school. I don't walk people intentionally by sending them to first with a point. You know what I'm saying? Just adapt to the times, people. But baseball never changed, even though it is kind of changing in front of our eyes. We're not going anywhere, so we're going to keep an eye on the Major League Baseball season going forward.
I know you will. You love your baseball.
I gotta stay up on it, especially when the Cubs are going to repeat this year. I don't know. Maybe
one thing I want to say at the very end about that.
Yeah,
it's weird not being like,
going
this
into
is
a season,
the year.
Right? I know,
it's weird being like, we won.
And on that note, we are going to end this podcast. Ricky, my goodness, really awesome stuff today.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic
It's a great time. I know that we all have the same listeners here on MVP, but it's nice to talk to the BTP crowd.
Sure, absolutely. And you know what? MVP. It's usually just me. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, we also mentioned bowls, a lot of bowls. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation. I know we did. We talked Cutler. What's the future for Cutler?
Jay Cutler.
Bad. And we look at the AOS situation, and we're going to end it with that. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for the entirety. If you did so on blogtalkradio.com/behindthepen. If you're on YouTube, bye, guys. Drop a like down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out all the other content here at MVP. We really do appreciate your time. For Ricky Widmer, my name is Mike Rankin. This has been Behind the Pen. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, we'll see you all next time.
Gotta hit him with the finger guns.
Thank you guys for sticking around for this segment of Behind the Pen. If you want more most valuable podcast content, click on the video up above, because I don't know why you wouldn't want to keep listening to our voices every day. But again, guys, thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you.